There is $100 billion industry built on one assumption, that you will never understand what I am about to show. Americans eat more potatoes than any other vegetable on Earth. 53 kilograms per person per year, but most never try to reproduce it. Then an Amish farmer knocked over a small wire cage and shattered the illusion. Potatoes rolled out of each level of the tower and continued to roll on the ground. The entire harvest fit into an area smaller than a card table near the barn. It took minutes to install, but the lesson took years to accept. Potatoes are not a root at all, and this fact changes the whole method. I'll show the tower, the straw version, and a bug that breaks both. The potatoes in your refrigerator right now have been deliberately treated with a chemical to make sure they will never sprout again. After midwinter, almost all potatoes sold in commercial markets in the United States are sprayed with a compound called chlorpropham. Chlorpropham is a herbicide originally developed in the 50s to kill weeds. It was then repurposed by the potato storage industry to prevent potatoes from sprouting in the months between harvest and your shopping cart. It works by blocking cell division in the developing sprout, the same mechanism it uses against the plants it is supposed to kill. The European Union analyzed the safety data and found 180% exceeding acceptable residue levels. They banned it completely in January 2020. The United States has not banned it. It remains standard industry practice. The business model was never about solving your food problem forever, but about managing it just enough to get you back to the store next week. For decades, most of us have been locked in a cycle of buy, cook, buy again, while the Amish stand in their gardens shaking their heads. They have already understood what others are just beginning to understand. You don't defeat the system by fighting it. You defeat it by making yourself so self-sufficient that the system simply becomes irrelevant. In Lancaster County, in Holmes County, in Amish communities throughout the Midwest, they do it with an area of land that would fit in most people's living rooms. The first Amish arrived in Pennsylvania in the 1720s, and the first settlement in Holmes County appeared in the early 19th century. Their agricultural continuity has survived several waves of industrial standardization. What they have preserved is not a magical secret, but simply an understanding of what the potato plant really wants to do. Instead of forcing it to grow in long rows suitable for mechanized agriculture, they give it vertical space. They never forgot that the potato evolved on the steep Andean slopes, where soil naturally accumulated against the growing stem. His name was Jacob, and I watched him do in 2 minutes what took me 20 years to unlearn. Jacob is an elderly Amish farmer in Holmes County, Ohio, with hands that look like they've been gardening since you were born. His neighbor, an ordinary farmer, plants potatoes the same way every spring. Long rows, the soil turned over twice, just like his father did. One spring day, I stood outside Jacob's shed and watched as he set up 2 wire cylinders next to it. He moved slowly, layering straw, adding compost, pressing seed potatoes, watering. 20 minutes, maybe less, for both designs. In the fall, while harvesting, his neighbor dug up rows of potatoes and got about 18 kilograms from a 9-meter row. Jacob knocked over his first cylinder, and I watched as over 50 potatoes rolled across the ground in a circle barely wider than my arm span. When I asked Jacob how he learned this method, he thought about it and said simply, "My father showed me, his grandfather showed him." Potatoes are not a root, and I want you to pause on that for a moment. Most of us, including myself for most of my life, treat potatoes like a root vegetable. We plant it deep, like carrots or beets, thinking of it as something that forms below the seed in the dark of the soil. But this is not what actually happens at all. The potato is the swollen, starch-filled end of an underground stem called a stolon. Stolons grow outward from the base of the potato plant's main stem, extending horizontally just below the surface. At their tips, in the dark and cool soil, they swell into new tubers. That's why this one fact rewrites everything. In a regular garden, you plant seed potatoes and hill up the soil once or twice. This gives the plant a few extra inches of buried stem to send out stolons. Then you stop, let the plant grow upward in the open air, and all that stem above the surface just sits there in the light, not producing anything. The tower method changes one thing. It continues to bury the stem as the plant grows upward. Every time the shoots reach 20-25 centimeters above the current surface, you add another layer of growing medium around them. You leave only the top few centimeters exposed, covering most of the new stem. This buried stem feels darkness, pressure, coolness, and says, "I am now underground." It sends out new stolons. Each stolon grows outward. Each tip swells. Another layer of potato is formed. You're not tricking the plant or hacking its biology. You're restoring the conditions for which the potato plant evolved. On steep Andean slopes, soil naturally accumulated against the growing stem, providing just such a continuous cover generation after generation. The International Potato Center says the potato was first domesticated near Lake Titicaca approximately 8,000 years ago. The Amish didn't discover this. They just never forgot this principle. Before you build anything, I need to tell you the single most common reason this method fails. This is not technology, not soil, not watering. 9 out of 10 potato towers that disappoint their gardeners were planted with the wrong variety. Potatoes, like tomatoes, come in 2 main growth types. Determinate varieties produce all their tubers in one layer at the base of the plant. They form stolons once, grow potatoes at the same depth, and that's it. No matter how high you plant them after that, the genetics of the plant are determined at the moment of germination. The most popular, most familiar, most widely sold potato varieties are determinate. Yukon Gold is determinate, Red Norland is determinate, most finger types are determinate. These are great potatoes to eat, but they have no business in the tower. What you need for the tower method are late-maturing, indeterminate varieties. Plants genetically engineered to continue producing new stolons along a buried stem length. Rousset, Burbank, Quebec, Elba, German Butterball are the varieties with which I got the best results in the towers. Take a piece of welded wire mesh with holes 5 by 10 centimeters. Cut a piece about 3 meters and 80 centimeters long and form it into a cylinder with a diameter of about 1 meter and 20 centimeters. Secure the ends together with wire ties and install in a location that receives at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sun. Line the inside of the bottom 30 centimeters with straw, pressing it against the wire walls to form a nest. Fill the bottom of the tower with a 15-centimeter layer of about a 50-50 mixture of ready-made compost and loose straw. Place 4 to 5 seed potato pieces on top of this layer, eye side up, at even intervals. Cover the seed pieces with another 10 to 15 centimeters of the compost and straw mixture, then water thoroughly until the entire column is evenly moist. This is your starting layer. The tower now stands about 30 centimeters high. Within 1 to 2 weeks, you will see green shoots breaking through the surface, and this is where everything changes. You don't stop when shoots appear. Every time these shoots grow 20-25 centimeters above the current surface, you add another layer. Add 10 to 15 centimeters of compost and straw around the stems, leaving only the top 7 to 10 centimeters of foliage above the new surface. You will repeat this cycle 3 or 4 more times per season, filling the tower from bottom to top. Each layer is another level of potato production. By the time you're finished, the tower will stand about 90 centimeters high and contain a vertical column of developing potatoes from the ground upward. That's what destroys more towers than any construction mistake: inconsistent watering. A wire cylinder full of straw and compost is exposed to air movement on all sides and dries from the outside in much faster than normal soil. The rule I follow is simple. Stick your finger 7 centimeters into the growing mixture, and if it feels dry at that depth, water deeply. Once your plants bloom, stop adding layers. This signal means that the formation of tubers is in full swing, and the plant now needs to switch energy from growing the stem to increasing what it has already laid down. It usually takes another 4 to 6 weeks from flowering to harvest. Wait until the vines turn yellow and begin to die naturally. During these last weeks, the tubers gain their final weight and the skins harden for storage. Take your time. Patience pays off in the end. And now we come to the moment I've been aiming for since the first sentence of this video: Harvest Day. Cut the wire ties, unfold the fence, step back. The entire column of straw and compost collapses to the ground, and whatever is inside it falls with it. Potatoes at every level, potatoes from every layer of buried stem you gave the plant during the season. I did this for the first time with my granddaughter a few years ago. She is 7 years old. She watched as about 40 potatoes rolled along the ground from one cylinder, looked at me seriously and said, "Grandpa, are we rich now?" Now I want to share a version of this method that requires nothing. No wire, no cylinder, no structure at all. Just straw and a patch of bare earth. This is the most simplified expression of the same principle, and it is what showed me how elegantly simple the underlying biology is. An Amish farmer in Lancaster County showed me this, and when I first saw it, I honestly couldn't believe the whole method. He placed 4 pieces of seed potatoes directly on the surface of the soil in a loose group about 60 centimeters in diameter, covered them with 20 centimeters of loose straw. This was the entire starting setup. No digging, no machining, no framing, nothing at all. When the shoots rose through the straw and reached 20-25 centimeters, he added another thick layer of straw on top. He did this 3 more times during the season, building a mound of straw about 75 centimeters high. Straw keeps developing tubers in complete darkness and retains moisture better than most people expect. It decomposes slowly enough to maintain its structure throughout the entire growing season. When harvesting, he disassembled the straw with his hands. The potatoes lay right there, nested in layers, clean and undamaged. His harvest from one mound amounted to about 23 kilograms. This is a significant harvest at 0 cost and almost 0 labor. I replicated this method in my own garden and compared it to a wire tower in the same season. The gap was closer than you might think. There's something the Amish understand about all of this that gets lost when gardening content reduces these techniques to a list of steps to follow. They grow potatoes this way not because someone told them it was smart. They do this because it is the most honest expression of how the potato plant actually works. At the center of Amish life is the word Gelassenheit, which means submission to the natural order, trust in the system, refusal to seek to redefine. Instead, ask what the living thing in front of you really needs in order to do what it was already created to do. Jacob said it simply, standing outside his shed. The plant knows what to do, we just need to give it space. The seed potato industry is built on the assumption that you won't bother learning what the plant actually needs, that you will continue to buy bags at the grocery store without ever looking at the wire cylinder and 4 seed potatoes, never realizing that inside this structure, by September, is a full season's supply of one of the most important foods on Earth, grown from 4 square meters for the cost of straw and a little attention. Get certified seed potatoes of late-ripening indeterminate varieties: Russet Burbank, Quebec, Elba, German Butterball. Build a wire tower or place them on the ground under straw. Water using the 7-centimeter finger test as a guide rather than a calendar. Hill up the stems every 2 to 3 weeks when they reach 20-25 centimeters, burying most of the growth each time. Here's the part that no one in the retail seed industry wants you to understand. Once you harvest your potatoes this way and save the best tubers for replanting next spring, you'll never have to buy seed potatoes again. You're completely out of the supply chain, doing what Amish families have been doing since the 1720s.